That was enough, that's good.
To double check again.
Okay.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Captain's Lounge. I am your captain, Captain Diesel, and I'm joined with guest Dani. Well, at this point, you're not
Hi,
even a guest at this point because you've been here. You're here all the time now.
happy to be here.
Guys, today we are here to discuss a movie that I am very impressed with. Initially, I wasn't really going to give it too much thought, maybe see it like later on. Because sometimes creature features kind of discourage me a little bit. But Dani, she gave me a text. She's like, "Hey man, you got to watch this. We got to talk about this. This is really good." So before we do anything else, Dani, what are your how are you doing first and foremost? Get into anything crazy?
I'm wonderful, I'm great, and I'm super excited to talk about this movie because I get to talk about makeup effects today, and I
Mm,
wanna unpack why you're discouraged by creature films. I'm fascinated by this.
not like them in general, but I feel like
Mhm,
they're either done really well or done really bad, and we will get into details about like what I feel makes them really good in a second here.
okay,
But it's like
okay,
really if really wishy washy for me. This one I
okay,
was going to give a look just because it was Blumhouse and Leigh Whannell, and
mhm,
these two haven't really done me wrong. For people that aren't aware, Leigh Whannell's done stuff like Upgrade. What else did he do? He did something else that was major that I really enjoyed. Oh my god, I'm blanking. He's done some other horror stuff, but I know Upgrades to think off the top of my head that I really enjoyed. That's not necessarily horror per se, but it's in that same like horror action realm type of thing. And then Blumhouse is just like they are cranking shit out right now. They're cranking out that good shit. Like I
I'm
think,
so happy about it.
how did I forget? Lee Whannell, he did the Invisible Man, the most recent one. That was really
Okay,
good. So he's
okay.
he's he's
I
worked on
still
some
haven't
really
seen that,
amazing
I need to
stuff.
watch that.
You
I need to watch
would
The Invisible Man.
you would love that.
Gonna love it. I'm about to
For
watch that later.
for all the wrong reasons we didn't enjoy Nosferatu as much, it did that movie in the best way. If that makes any sense.
Okay,
Um,
alright.
but yeah, so what were
Well,
your
I
before we
actually love that. No, I wanna check that out.
what were your general sentiments though?
Immediately on this film, general sentiments are the use of makeup effects. When I think of Wolfman, I think of the original Wolfman. I think of the Universal monster franchise, which is my favorite. If it has anything to do with the Universal world in any way, I'm there. The fact that Wolfman I got in screen practical effects and this this movie is exactly how you need to reveal a monster. I loved the way that they revealed this monster because you felt it, you wanted to see it so bad, and they just didn't give it to you. This is what I wanted from Nosferatu that I did not get. They showed him too soon. They showed him too soon. I saw too much of him too quickly. They did me so good in this movie. I loved the fact that they just dragged it out. And then when you
Till
saw them, you were like terrorized, and it was for 1 second, and you're like, what the hell was that?
So let's talk about that real quick
Love
because
that.
I think that's like the
Yeah.
number one thing. Because you asked me about the
Mhm.
creature feature thing. That's the thing that I feel like is usually done bad when I'm not enjoying them is that the fact that they show the monster way too soon. Because whenever you just reveal a monster in its entire glory, at that point the allure of it is kind of gone, the mystique of it is kind of gone, and you kind of get used to it
Yes.
once you see it more and more throughout the movie. Because there's no way you can just show it in its full 100% and then go back to showing bits and pieces of it. It's kind of weird to do
The
that.
beauty
Um,
Okay, but the beautiful thing about this, though, is
mm,
the progression makeup, is that there's
mhm.
different parts of this. So, when we do start seeing it, we wanna see it up close and personal, and we get that. Like, we literally get to see his fingernails, we get to see his teeth falling out, we get to see what we want to, when we want to, and, like, it's still only bits and pieces. So, I love a progression makeup, and this one just was, like, so good. It was
And
so
that
good.
was another thing that was dope about it is the fact like we didn't get to see the original Wolfman up until this point in the movie, but we got to see him like transform into that thing. So the more he's changing,
Mhm,
the more we get an idea of what the actual thing outside is. And I thought that was
mhm,
amazing. The best
mhm.
thing though, the number one thing of this movie went because I talked about it in the video I recorded for it. If I had to give this movie one thing that it did well over anything else, it's the sound design because the fact that they would have these scenes where
Peace.
it's almost like a POV shot, like on some Evil Dead type of timing, but not really, where you're
Mhm,
following
mhm.
people and the people that you're following can see the monster. But instead of seeing him, you're hearing him approach them. You're hearing him breathing, so you get that weight of it's like in the presence of it still. And I'm like, man, this is
That
amazingly well done.
was that was the other thing that I just absolutely loved about it, was the perspective that we got from Wolfman. Usually,
Hmm.
we're just seeing this person, and we know them as a regular person, and we're watching them turn into this monster, and we're getting to see what this feels like from his perspective. Also, love the layers of generational trauma happening here. That was, like that blew me away. That was, like, possibly my favorite part about this movie.
So let's get into a little bit of the synopsis, and that's some of the subtext we can get into. But for people that are watching this, again, I guess a spoiler warning briefly for people that have not seen it and want to go see it, or just don't care about spoilers, or that do care about spoilers. My bad. The movie is a very self-contained, like really tight written movie where it's going to take place for the most part on this guy Blake's family farm. Blake has brought his daughter Ginger and his wife Charlotte with him to the family farm to kind of rekindle the family charm and really spend a lot of time with his family because his dad passed away, and there's this whole dialogue in regards to him really wanting to spend time with his family and make sure he's not wasting the time that they have left, because time is fleeting. If you've lost somebody important to you through death at some point, I feel like most people kind of have that realization at some point in life where it's like, okay,
I have to
good.
interject there. This is also a reimagination of the original 1941 Wolfman because that was also, like, having to do with, like, an aristocrat coming back to, like, his father's estate. So, that was inspired by that. Okay, keep
I didn't
going,
even know that
sorry.
because I haven't seen
Yeah,
the big OG one. When it comes to werewolf stuff, I've seen the
yeah.
werewolf in London and like all the underworld stuff, but I did not see the original
Iconic,
Wolfman.
iconic. Okay, I actually worked with the, Rick Baker's prodigy, Steve Johnson, who worked on American Werewolf in London, which was
Oh, that's sick.
amazing at the time.
Hey, you done
Yeah,
some shit. You worked for some people, man. We need
yeah.
to hell at this point, we need to do an interview for you at some point. But yes, they're going back to the family farm. He's rekindling that stuff, and as they're making their way up to the family farm, they get attacked by the Wolfman or a Wolfman. And that's essentially the whole movie is him running away from this Wolfman that's in the woods, that's on his family farm, and his family is trying to get in and out of there. But you get through the attack, Blake is then scratched or bitten. I can't remember which one it was in particular, but he gets attacked and gets his skin broken by the Wolfman, and now he is transforming throughout it. And an interesting thing about this that I want to discuss too, that's different from most versions of the Wolfman or lycanthropy that you see within like most horror stuff. They treat this as a disease. They tell you like the first opening expositional credits that they give you, letting you know that hey, there is this almost like rabies-like infection that people get that turns them into this wolf-like person when you get like a dog face essentially. So it's treated like an infection, and you see it as the transformation is going on. It's really gritty, and you see him. It looks like a sickness in the way that it's showcased. But that being said, let's talk about some of the subtext here because that's the main plot synopsis. But there's a lot to say
Mhm.
about the metaphors and the subtext here in this movie. So you mentioned the whole aspect of generational trauma. You want to like expound upon that just a little bit more?
I do, and specifically around males and generational trauma around men.
Hmm.
Um, there was definitely a lot of subtext about this man being almost traumatized by how his father interacted with him as a child, and then him actively trying to not have that relationship with his daughter. And then when his father dies and they go back to where he comes from, this monster begins to take him over and he is actively trying to fight it while still not passing it on to his daughter and being able to maintain that relationship with her, which he does. I loved, like, by the end of it, I was just like, "Holy shit." They literally, like, the shot at the end when they're looking out
Hmm.
at the mountains, and I was like, "That this is literally full circle moment where, like, she's moving forward now and not having to carry all the things, like, they're literally leaving everything that was traumatic there, like, she's traumatized, but, like, understood that her dad still loved her,
Hmm.
and
And
that's
there's
something
a
that his son didn't get, like, it was just so deep. I know that was, like, a very ran through version of that, but, like, I was actually crying during the last scene. I was, like, in full on tears,
So to get into like
crying.
some of the details around it, because I think you summed it up for the most part. But there is maybe I think maybe I have a little bit more perspective on this in particular from the fact of when my grandpa passed away, I noticed Well, even with me and my grandfather and like my bio dad who was not around, I feel like men, if you have a not present father or a not greatest or not the greatest relationship with your father figure or your father, you have this thing in your mindset, even sometimes with just parents in general, to where you don't want to be like them. You're not going to take those traits and do to your kids or the other people that they did to you. You don't want to be them. But then there's still that aspect of the fact that you were raised with them, so those tendencies are kind of wrote into you subconsciously. And you saw that a lot with Blake here, to where like I think one of the opening scenes, they're walking through New York. Well, not New York, but I don't know what city it is. I know it's near Portland, so I'm not. And it was close enough for them to drive there. Um, but they're in the city, and his daughter like hop on these like road blocking like cone not cones, but I don't know what to call them.
Yeah.
Essentially, like the elevated things for road
The
blocking,
barrier. It's like a
the
barrier.
barrier.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
she's like obviously in a very dangerous situation. And he has this thing also to where he's like not heard. And we saw that from the very opening scenes, to where he's trying to like say something to his dad, and his dad's not really listening to him.
Hmm.
And this is a reoccurring thing you have here, to where he's trying to talk to his daughter to tell her, hey, get down from there, let's be safe. And she's kind of ignoring him for a moment. And he kind of snaps at her, like yells at her, lets her know, like, hey, why didn't you listen to me? I'm trying to keep you safe. And he realizes that's something that is like a literal juxtaposition to what his dad did to him, like not even 10 minutes ago in the film. And instead of doing the thing that you see some parents do, to where it's just like, hey, I told you to do something, you should have done it. He takes a step back and he's like, hey, I'm going to explain to you why I didn't want you to do that and why I raised my voice at you. And like literally, I talked about it in my review. He is damn near like the like picture perfect version that people would paint of like a father, where he's expressive, he's communicative, he's understanding, he's very transparent with his kids and his family. It's interesting there, but that's the thing you see recurring a lot throughout the film, to where he'll like his dad tendencies will like pop up, and he just stops himself. He takes a step back and he tries to fix it up until the point to where he can't, because he's not a human anymore.
I have to give my perspective as a daughter now with a
Mm-hmm.
father that was absent, and I think due to himself removing him, like, from myself and, like, my family's lives just so, like, he keeps himself away from us,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, that's why I think why I was so affected by the end of the movie, because this little girl understood that her father had turned into a monster, but they both and he was a monster at that point. He like, it had overtook him, and at
Mm-hmm.
the end when she was like, "Mommy, he just wants it to be over now." And the fact that they both still understood that they loved each other, although he was still a monster and she could still never have her father back, I think that's why I was so devastated by that, because I've quite literally watched that happen in my own life, and I'm walking away from this not carrying the trauma that my father did, and, like, this movie blew me away, like, on top of the sound design, on top of
Mm-hmm.
the cinematography, hello? We didn't even start talking about that yet.
Oh yeah.
Some of these shots were like I was like, "This is beautiful. This is very" like, I haven't seen filming like this in a while, like, I don't know. I was completely blown away by this movie.
And for me, it's really easy to get lost in the writing here, because it's so in depth and it's so tight. For like,
Mhm,
I think I spent like so much time thinking about that subtext with his dad and all the cute little ways
mhm,
they set it up. Because it would
mhm,
be little things like the moment he had with his daughter, where there was like a recurring thing they did, to where he would call her a mind reader, and she would put her hand on his
yeah.
head, and every time she read his mind, she'd know that, oh, daddy loves you. And it's a recurring thing that it's brought back up, like I think like two more times through the film at critical moments, even to the point where he can't
Mhm.
talk, she can still read his mind. It's stuff like that in the script that was so well written and so tight, where I'm like, damn,
That, like,
they
emotionally shook me while also, like, scaring me and making me uncomfortable. The effects in this made me uncomfortable, and I that's what they should do. I wanted to rewind them and pause them and stare at them. They were true to, like, a Wolfman transformation.
so
I couldn't have been happier with the makeup designs. I loved them.
let's get into that real quick, because I think the makeup and the
Yeah.
cinematography kind of go
Mhm.
hand in hand. In this movie in
Yes.
particular, for the factor of we're seeing this individual transform like throughout the entire film. And he's transforming into this Wolfman monster, and as he's transforming, you're starting to see like his tendencies change, and the way that he perceives the world is changing, and it's done a lot through the lighting in the film. Like as he's kind of changing, you're starting to see the color grading change at his perspective, and then you would switch over to his wife, and things would be brighter, and things would be seen from a different light. The thing that I really thought was genius that they did to show that things were changing with him was the first scene to where he's hearing like thuds and somewhere throughout the house, really loud. And
Oh,
even
good.
when you're watching as a viewer, it's like the sound mixing for it was like really loud on our end. And he's walking through the house. He
Mhm.
sees his daughter and his wife. They're not really like hearing it because they're sound asleep. But he walks all the way upstairs and he sees a spider just like walking in a closet. So from our perspective, seeing a spider, you don't think there's gonna be a lot of like noise when a spider's happening or a spider's moving around. So again, that moment showed a lot of perspective, and it was a genius way to show that his senses and his hearing is increasing and it's
Mhm.
getting a lot better, and then things are changing within him.
It was so disorienting because when I saw the spider, I was just like, "I don't get it. Like, why is there a spider on the screen?" And then I was like, "Wait, that's the sound of the spider." Like, it took me a second to, like, understand what was actually
Hmm.
happening, and when I did, I was like, "This is so dope." I loved by the end how everything was just so violently warped that it looked like he was literally tripping. Like, the way
Hmm.
that people looked and the way their eyes and, like, how you could see all their blood vessels and how they didn't quite look oh, so good. And then the transitions between audio, between, like, human reality and Wolfman reality,
Hmm.
audio transitions were absolutely fascinating.
Shout out to Swell Monster. Thanks for coming through, my man. He says that his wife really loved the movie, and he said it's crazy because I think he's seeing that it's getting a lot of hate online, which is weird for me to see. I didn't think, at least
Me too.
I haven't looked at the internet to see what the internet's public perception of the movie
I
was.
don't
Which,
care what that and that's
yeah, but to
it.
your point with the perception thing with the warping of it, I thought that was really well
Mhm.
done in regards to seeing things from the world perspective. And the thing I want to kind of tie into it again, and additionally, was the aspect of the little thing he had where he wasn't being heard. Because you saw that in like earlier with his daughter and somewhere to with his dad, to where he would say things and people wouldn't really like respond to him. And even like previous before, like earlier in the movie, you saw a thing too where he like walked in and he's like barricading the door with the bookshelf. And you see his daughter walk in from one perspective on one side, and his wife walk in, and he's speaking to him, and
Just
they're just like
watching.
not, they're watching him, they're not responding to him.
Mhm.
And you're
Just
again,
watching.
it's kind of weird to us because we're like, okay, why are they not responding to him? And it's something that's
And
consistent with
then
him. But then, yeah, like to your point, we go into where we're seeing the
and
wolf
then
advanced form, where he
mhm,
legit cannot understand them and they can't understand him because he's like speaking a different language at a certain point.
they completely lose the ability to communicate with each other.
It is so crazy
It is
because you're
so fucking deep, dude. Like, I cannot get over the context that they have brought to this movie and, like, the fact that they're talking about this in the way that they're talking about it. I that's literally my favorite part about this movie, and that's what, like, made it for me on top of the effects and all of everything, but, like, that is what made this movie so good. Like, they're really talking about things that need to be spoken about. Men's mental health needs to be spoken about. I literally did my whole senior thesis on this, so, like,
mm,
this movie sent me to space. I was just like, "It couldn't have been better for me."
it's even more dope to me because it looks at the perspective of like what you like when you look at the picture perfect family. When you imagine a perfect family, you have this dad being a pillar. He's the glue that keeps everything together. Because
Mhm.
at this point, mom is not. She feels very like distant and disconnected
Sure,
from her daughter
detached. Mhm.
and from her husband as well to an extent. But the thing that I love the most about this, and I've again, this is something I've heard my grandma and my grandpa talk about too, when because they were together for 40-ish years or something around there before he passed away.
So
And I
wonderful.
asked him like, "Hey, so how do you like keep your marriage like together? How did you guys stay together for this long?" And he let me know like, "Hey, it's a thing of where every day I may not have 100% to give. Maybe I have 35 or I have 70 and your grandma has 30 or whatever it is. We have to fill in those gaps." So in a aspect of where we're seeing dad for most of the beginning of the movie, he's like at 100% going. He's doing all the
Mhm.
communicating, he's doing all the directing, all the protecting. And then as he's not well and he's transforming, he's able to do less and less. And you start to see Charlotte like really pick up the slack in regards to
The transformation of
communication.
power.
It's amazing
Mhm.
how well that's done. Again,
That
like we
was
said, the subtext
that
is
was
like
something I did not
80% of
think
it.
about. You know what? Thank you for saying that. Thank you also for telling me the advice that your grandfather gave you. That's
Yeah.
beautiful, and I'll keep that in my heart. Um, I didn't think about it like that, and that's really beautiful perspective because that absolutely happened, and then, like, at the end, it was like a completion of that. She was literally moving forward with her daughter, and they were going into the wilderness of life together and moving
Hmm.
forward. Like, holy shit,
I don't know if
so
you
good.
caught this portion too. There's something that he said early in the film where he was describing the farm, and why he loved it over there. He was like, he mentioned the mountain, and he was like, it's beautiful. And every morning when
Uh-huh.
you would see it, no matter how many times see it, you would know everything's going to be all right. So when they get to that moment and you see the mountain
Mhm.
and how beautiful it is, I'm like, yeah, this
So
script was,
good. I
this is
know.
like,
It's so
this
fucking good.
if I'm in school and I'm teaching somebody how to write a screenplay or just write a script in general, this is like what I'm going to
Mhm.
show people because it's so
Yes.
airtight.
Yes, it is. Mhm.
There's no setup that wasn't paid off. There's no dysfunctional or discordant relationships here. Like everything makes sense. Like there are some moments where you could like talk about some of the acting in certain moments, and I think that's just due to
Sure.
either
I
edits or
agree.
again some of the times with Ginger, her delivery with certain things were weird. But again, she's a child actor, so I don't look
Also
at
too.
children. Um, I think we got spoiled about the It movies where we saw like child acting in horror at its like
No,
peak.
literally.
So now, at least
Yeah,
for me,
no,
whenever
I
I see a child actor, I'm like,
100%
but
agree.
I'm comparing it to that. But
Like, where did this disconnect? No, I feel that. I There was some parts with the acting where I was like, "Meh," but, like, as far as the plot goes, as far as cinematography, um, any type of sound design, all of it ate down for me, and the makeup effects, I actually didn't look up who did the makeup effects, but
let me see
I
if I can look
was
it up.
very happy with them. The progression of everything, like how everything was very subtle and he was just looking like slightly disfigured in the beginning, or like he was having like an allergic reaction all over, and then how his hair started to fall out and his teeth. It was so good for me. And, like, they didn't go too hard with the makeup either by the end when they were, like, fully transformed, which I also appreciated. Like, it looked like something that you might see in the woods. You could run across in the woods.
So the makeup designer for this was I'm gonna butcher his name. I'm so sorry. Arjun Tweetin or Tuin and another guy named by the name of Mike Marino. And they did most of the makeup
Marino.
for this.
Mike Marino sounds so familiar. I know he's done I have to look this up now.
Yeah, they killed this because I think we talked about it when we discussed Nosferatu as well. The whole aspect of we didn't really recognize or see any of Skarsgård in that makeup. This one I think was a distinct opposite end of the spectrum to where
I loved it.
it was so
I loved it.
minimal and we got to see like Blake underneath all the makeup. You distinctly saw him at the end of it
Well,
as he was transforming.
in the very beginning, I feel like they were only doing, like, little Bondo transfers, and a Bondo transfer is almost like a temporary tattoo. It's so thin, it's, like, made out of, like, skin-safe glue pretty much. It's made out of Pros-Aid,
Mhm.
and acetate paper or acetate paper, and, it's like a tattoo, so it's, like, very, very subtle, and, like, they used makeup, like, age makeup essentially out of the kit makeups
Mhm.
and made him look really realistic and just a little bit sick, and as he progresses, I think the full progression makeup was a silicone appliance just because of it didn't have too much movement and of how and because of how skin-like it looked, but, like, the subtlety of everything when he was, like, eating his arm off, that was all in camera. That looked amazing.
So yeah,
He
let's talk
literally had some
about
type of apparatus on his arm, and he was going to town with it, like, with his teeth.
let's talk about
That was
this really
great.
quickly where I noticed in a lot of the behaviors, well, again, he's called the Wolfman, but he had a lot of like dog like tendencies and
Mhm.
things that he would do here. And I feel
I
like
like that.
if you're a dog owner, you notice a lot of it a little closer, just from seeing it up close and personal all the time. But there's that one specific scene you were discussing there that you brought up where they unwrap the bandage because he's bleeding a lot from the wrap that they treated earlier, and it's real gnarly looking. It to me, it reminded me a lot of I don't know if you saw the most recent Candyman adaptation. Um, but in that
Hmm.
one, he got a bee sting, and he kind of like it was the same kind of similar thing to where as the movie went on, you saw it kind of rot away and it get really like gnarly and gross. And when he saw it, he didn't do the thing that you would have a regular person do when they're seeing a wound and kind of like pat it down maybe or like rub it or whatever it may be. He did what a dog would do. He's gnawing at it and like biting at it.
Yes.
And I'm like, damn, he's
Hmm.
legit like transforming literally like behaviorally into a, I wouldn't even call it a wolf man. I call him dog man in this one because I feel like he's more akin to a dog man
Yeah.
up in how he
Hmm.
interacts in this.
Hmm.
Which I mean, ancestral things and science, all the scientists with regards to evolution or whatever else.
I
But
mean, a wolf is a dog. Like, our
right,
dogs are descendant from wolves. So,
right.
like, he's a primitive version of a dog. And oh god, as he progresses through it and the part where, like, his nails are coming out, like, his fingernails pop out, all of
Hmm.
his teeth are falling out, his skin is bubbling, there was definitely some, they use bladders, flat bladders, so essentially it's a little bladder made filled with air, you make them out of latex, and you put them underneath a prosthetic, and then you
Hmm.
can literally take a little, squeezy thing, and it will fill up the bladder, and so it looks like it's bubbling, so it made his skin look like it was bubbling. I loved to see that. I love seeing in-camera stuff. I feel like people don't always take opportunities to use things like that, but I think they're really effective in films like this, especially creature films and transformation scenes. Um, there's a lot of blood in this. I loved all the blood. I loved it. I loved it. When he eats that guy's throat out, like, when he eats his dad's throat out and then figures out it's his dad
Yeah.
afterwards, and he's like, "Oh my god," and then he continues to transform
For a movie that only
after
has
that.
like really like one on-screen death for real, there's a lot of gore and blood in this. Like the
Mhm.
only, I think literally the only person that died on screen we saw was the dad in that like werewolf fight. And that was another thing I was like I was scared of because I'm like, okay, we're about to have an
I
on-screen
love
like
that werewolf
werewolf
fight.
fight.
I did not hate that. I
I was
was
so
going
scared.
crazy. It was so good. It was so good.
It made a lot of sense.
I loved it.
And when that tattoo show, when he showed his dad's tattoo, I kind of already thought it was going to be his dad when they talked about his dad
Me
missing.
too.
But when they showed that it
Me
was
too.
actually him, I'm like, okay, that just brought everything together. That was the punctuation
Uh-huh.
point on the film
It
and a lot
was.
of stuff.
It was. It was. And he was like, "Don't you wanna protect your son?" And then that man turned into the wolf man, and then he turned his son into a wolf man.
You know
It
the
was so
things.
good, like, I love
The,
this film so much.
I want to get into the little thing they did with the breath because we talked about it earlier regards like the different ways to showcase the monster and give presence without showing them in full. When
Mhm.
they were in
Oh, man, he
the
was
deer
so good.
blind, they're in the deer blind, and you're seeing the monsters climbing, the wolf's climbing up the deer blind, but instead of seeing his face, you're just seeing his breath, like the breath in that cold air, and then you see it like behind them. So it's like again, there's so many ways they played around with sound and showing
Mhm.
different aspects of the wolf man to give presence to him. Because in my mind, I don't know what to imagine because it works with something like this too, where historically in cinema, we've seen wolfmen and lycans and werewolves in so many different types of forms, from the underworld
True.
movies to Werewolf in
Mhm.
London. So we
True.
have what it'll look like in our mind already. So the imagination is going there. And then when we actually get the full reveal, I'm like, okay, this looks solid. It's not as grand and crazy as I'm used to seeing, but it looks really clean and really dope. And they were able to just
I
hold that
think
off for so long.
I think sometimes a more dialed back makeup is important.
Mhm.
And that was something that, Tom always spoke to us about, was, like, whenever you see a monster, when you finally get to see it, it's always gonna be like, "Oh my god, I thought it was gonna be so much worse." So the buildup and the like, making the presence of the monster before revealing them in any way is so important in films like these, which, like you said, I think they did such a beautiful job of creating that presence of the monster. You'd only see his hand or, like, his shadow, or you get a flash of him in the background or something, but I think the more dialed back, realistic makeup, like I said, I feel like I could possibly run into that into the woods. It wasn't so far out or, like, so dog-like that I wasn't afraid of it. It was still very human, and I think that's what makes sometimes creature makeups more effective.
Also, I want to talk about the score or lack thereof really quickly. I feel like in horror, a great score in a movie can usually make that movie like a generational, memorable thing. If you're looking at the Nightmare on Elm Street music, the Friday the
Sure,
13th
for sure.
sounds,
Mhm.
the Halloween theme song, it's iconic.
Yes.
This
Yep.
movie, for the most part, didn't utilize too much music at all
Mm-mm.
to set
No,
atmosphere or
they
do
relied
anything.
I feel like they relied mostly on sound design. We were relying on that for the story and for perspective of, like, what was happening,
Mhm.
and I feel like if they would have had more of a score, it would have felt, like, almost overwhelming to experience the film just because a lot of our understanding of what was going on was relying on that sound design, so I actually appreciated the lack of it.
And I feel like this is another case where the director maximizes his actors to the fullest extent. Because for a lot of the scenes where atmosphere is being built, where there's like a sense of unease, that's made through like general conversation through the actors.
Mhm.
Prime example
Sure.
being when they're meeting Derek, the guy that was a kid of one of his neighbors, I guess he grew up
Mhm.
with. He's being kind of weird in like how he's speaking to the family and like saying like be thankful for him and blah 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 blah. And I'm noticing as I'm listening to this, it's like we've been in like weird, uncomfortable conversations before that emulated that perfectly. Like I
Really
feel
did.
off because they feel off because I've been in that situation
Mhm.
before. Not because I'm hearing this riser or Bram or anything that's making me feel a
Nope.
sense of unease. It's general conversation, like them acting with their face and a lot of the close-ups. Like they maximize the actor's ability to emote emotion in this. And that's something that I was surprised that Ginger's actor did very well. Like for a kid that young, for her to be able
She
to use her
did. No,
eyes and
she
her face
did.
really well was crazy to me.
Mhm. Yeah, she did. I feel like that was something that a lot of my professors tried to, like, hammer into us when speaking about, like, any type of audio design, was the usage of silence. Silence can be very important in any kind of score, whether it's musical or whether it's for film, whatever it's for. It's very important to use it, and I think they used it perfectly in this, and whether it was just, like, the sound of them riding in the truck and the rest of it being silent. You're absolutely right, it built that sense of tension, and the tension pays off because immediately something insane happens and you're like, "What is going on?" Like, I feel so disoriented by this, and I was already feeling weird and tense, and then they give you what you want with it.
Mhm.
I loved it.
So we're kind of late to do this, but because this cast is so small, I don't mind like giving
Mm,
direct shout outs to names. So obviously, Blake, the main, I guess I call him the main protagonist of this. He's played by
mhm.
Christopher Abbott, Charlotte by Julia Gardner, which is going to be interesting because for people that aren't aware, she's been casted as a character in the new Fantastic Four movie coming up, which I think she may be the Silver
Hmm,
Surfer. So getting to see a little bit more of her acting chops in this first
okay,
is going to be really
Silver
interesting.
Surfer, what?
Yeah,
Okay.
she getting the bag.
I
She's
don't know
doing
what I
this.
thought you were gonna say,
Yeah.
but I didn't think it was that.
Well,
Okay.
they have like a woman version of the Silver Surfer in the comics. So they're I don't know what they're doing with that
Oh,
movie
I
in
didn't know
particular,
that.
but
That's so cool.
she a for
Cool.
her doing this and getting to show like her acting chops with something like this tight, and then now we're about to see you go
Mhm.
into a big budget Marvel movie. I'm like, okay, Marvel they do
Cool.
that casting really well. So
Yeah,
she's
they
playing
do.
Charlotte. Ginger is played by Matilda Firth, or I think it's Firth. That's how you pronounce it. Grady, the
Mhm.
father, being played by Sam Yeager. Leigh Whannell actually voiced the character Dan in this, which is dope. I always find it interesting when directors like kind of shoehorn themselves in the roles a little bit, like with not Sam Raimi. Oh my God, what's Buddy's name? I'm blanking on. He did Split and The Sixth Sense.
Oh man, I know who he literally is, but I don't know his name. I'm so bad with names.
Oh my God, Shyamalan, M Night Shyamalan. Because he's usually
Okay.
like that, where he'll shoehorn himself. He'll give himself like a significant role in some stuff. Um, but yeah, the wolf version of his father is played by a guy named Ben Pendergast. So I'm assuming he was like the creature actor. Zach
Mhm.
Chandler was the young version of Blake. Milo Cawthorn was he's just called Man, so I'm not sure which character that was. But yeah, that's it. There's
Okay.
like a 9-person cast for this, and boy, I know they had to make bank on this movie, or I hope they make bank on this movie
They
because
better have.
you
They
only
better
have
have.
9 actors. You had really like maybe 3 set locations for real that you're recording on, and for the most part, all that took place in one location. The
Mhm.
makeup you didn't have to use a lot of CGI. A lot of it seemed practical.
Mhm.
Like, I hope this movie makes a lot of money because I need to see more things
I
like
hope it
this.
does too. I
Because
loved it. I loved it.
this is why I love horror because you can have such a small team and small cast turn out something so amazing. And it's something that I don't think you
That
can.
is the beautiful thing
Man,
about horror. No, I 100% agree with you on that. You can give You can stay in a house and you can build an entire horrifying, terrible, awful movie. That's pretty much all they're in is like on that one little property the whole time,
Mhm.
other than them shooting in the one apartment scene.
And that's hard to do. It's really hard
Yeah.
to, as a director, to have one set location really and make that one set location like dynamic enough. Like you have to showcase it
Hmm.
from different perspectives with different lightings to make you not just go numb to where they are. Um,
Yeah.
it was dope. It was dope in how they did that, and I think a lot of the ways again they played around with the lighting for it was amazing to do that. I think that was the main way
Hmm.
they did it. Man, this movie and Blumhouse is turning out some shit. Like when I'm looking at like their like from the last few years of their hit list of like the Black Phone, the Invisible Man, this look at I'm just out of curiosity now. I really want to look at the last couple of films that Blumhouse has put out because
Okay.
produce some they produce some
I
gas.
have to watch The Invisible Man. I have not seen it yet.
You would love that. You would love the Invisible Man. I'm not gonna lie. It was back when they were doing that dark universal verse thing where they were trying to like bring in the Mummy, Frankenstein's monster, and like have like their dark Avengers, I guess. Um,
Which I love because they always have been, and I feel like that's going to be showcased at the new park, and that's probably why they have put money into these things because of that. Like they're trying to resurrect their old monsters, which I'm excited about. I love that. Like I said, that's why I'm
which
surprised I didn't freaking see The Invisible
well,
Man yet. That's
I
crazy.
think they clapped that because I know the Mummy like did not make any movie because that movie was not the best in my opinion.
I didn't see
Um,
that because I didn't want to. I feel really bad, but I couldn't. What was your opinion on it? Was it good?
the
Should I
Mummy,
watch it?
the Mummy, no, I wouldn't.
Okay.
That movie
That
was
I
not.
could feel it. I saw the trailer and I was like, mm-mm.
It was really less too much CGI. They made it like it was like a CGI
Oh,
monster
that's
mash fest.
depressing.
Yeah, because
That's
it was so
depressing.
based in like magic, and there was they were I don't know. I feel like it was a little too
Oh,
much there. But for
okay.
just a couple of like the big notable movies they've done, they produced Get Out, which we already know is like a generational film in regards to horror. They
Yes.
put out Megan, which
Yes.
is a really I think that's like I really enjoyed it, but people love this movie.
I didn't hate it. I enjoyed that movie. I thought it was fun.
The Invisible Man, the Purge franchise, Insidious, Paranormal Activity. I didn't know
Love
they did
that
Paranormal
franchise.
Activity. Happy Death Day. I
Didn't
thought that was
either,
another.
actually.
Happy Death Day was a really good one. I really enjoyed that. That was fun. Freaky was another like fun one. I think that was the Vince Vaughn movie where he got like put into
What
a
was that
teenage
called?
Freaky, where
Oh, I haven't seen that. Oh, where he's like a teenage girl.
yeah, he's like a serial killer and he switches
He gets
bodies with the
switched.
girl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
didn't
was
see that
interesting.
though.
Sinister,
Okay.
which is another like they've produced
I liked
some
Sinister.
generational defining horror stuff as well as just some really well put together horror movies. Now, there's some,
For sure.
some stuff there like the Five Nights at Freddy's movie that I didn't think was great. But that was
Didn't
their
think was great.
I didn't love it. Which funny enough, I think that's their
Didn't
highest
see
grossing
it.
movie they've ever put out.
Huh,
Which makes sense
interesting.
because the video game was like at its I don't know if you were like on the internet
Okay.
when that game was at its peak back in the day.
I I am not a gamer. Video games give me anxiety. So, like, the only game I've ever been able to play is like Pikmin because I'm not dying. My little alien guys are dying, and even still, that still gives me a little anxiety. But no, my friend had to tell me the whole lore about all this because I didn't know anything about Friday Night at Freddy's or five. What's it called? Five
Five
Nights at
Nights at Freddy's,
Freddy's.
yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Excuse me. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it.
It was dope. I think like when you're looking at like early YouTube and like gaming YouTube, that was like one of the main games that people would like play because it was so
Okay.
it was dope. It was a good game back in the day.
Did
I
you play
gotta
the game?
I never did because it was I did not have the facilities to get that because that's when I was
Real,
younger and I had to like
real.
I got 3 games the entire year and I was not going to waste one on that. I'm not going to lie.
Fair. No, that's fair.
Horror games were not the thing I was trying to play back in the day. I was trying to get into a lot of my RPG and nerd stuff back then.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah, again, Blumhouse, they've done an amazing job. I think in the trailer that I saw as well, they had some more, like they had like 3 more movies in that trailer for this movie that I saw that they were producing. They are
Amazing.
like, they are on it. Blumhouse and A24 are just, they're on it right
Was that that's my apartment number, and I love that my apartment number is A24. It makes me so happy. Was one of them the one where, like, the guy's a sex robot and he, like, jailbreaks his sex robot?
I mean, Subservience,
Was
the
that one of the
Netflix one?
trailers you saw? No, no, there was another one. There's a different one that I saw a trailer for at Wolfman.
Sex robot. Hold on.
Yeah, he, like, jailbreaks her, and then she, like, goes rogue.
Probably gonna have to clear my search history looking at this. Companion, is that it? Is that who's
Yes,
this?
yes, yes, Companion. I saw that and I was like, "I need to see this movie. That movie looks really good."
Is that Anya Taylor Joy? Hold on.
I love her if it is. I didn't think it was her.
Look at the cast. Oh, Sophie Thatcher, that's who it was. Sophie Thatcher, Jack Quaid. Oh, they got a cast on this one. Hold on.
Mhm. No, the trailer looked good.
I think this was part of the trailer, like her with her arm up and like the fire going, like her arms
Yes,
burning.
mhm,
I didn't know she was a
yes,
robot.
mhm.
I thought that was like
Yes, she's a robot.
I thought it was a Get Out type of situation.
She's a
That's gonna be sick.
robot.
I've seen this trailer a couple times,
Yes, I know. I wanna see it really bad.
and I think Sophie Thatcher was just in Heretic too, right?
What?
I think she was just in the Heretic. Did you not see that?
I didn't see it.
Bro, yeah, she was in Heretic.
I need to see
You
it?
need to watch Heretic. If you haven't seen that movie, you need to see that movie. You would love that movie. It plays around a
Okay,
lot
I
with the aspect of like
okay,
religion
I
and
literally
theology.
okay, okay. It's on my list. I literally just wrote it down.
Yeah, I'm mad I didn't make a movie. I'm mad I didn't make I'm gonna send you a video on. I think I've sent you their channel before, but shout out to Cinema Therapy. I love their channel because they usually approach movies from the aspect of like a therapist reacting to a lot of this stuff, and one guy's a director. But they sat down with the directors for that movie and kind of reacted to different scenes in the movie and had a lot of different
So
dialogue. But
cool.
because the movie is based on essentially the Latter Day Saints, the Mormons. Um,
Okay.
and funny enough, the two guys that run that channel, they are Latter Day Saints. I think Latter Day Saints. So they got to really approach that. 'Cause I think
Interesting.
there's a lot of conversation around like the way they made the
Interesting.
Mormons look in that, but them being Mormons, they were like, yeah, we didn't hate this is an amazing portrayal and da da da. Da. I'll send you the
It's
video, but
fascinating.
the movie was
Yes.
really really well done. And Hugh
Okay.
Grant got to just like act his ass off in that movie.
Okay.
Yeah, Hugh
Okay, Hugh
Grant,
Grant. All
you
right.
get to play around. But yeah, there's been
Okay.
a lot of great horror that's been coming out, and it's only getting better. And the thing I'm loving about it right now is that although we're getting certain things like the Wolfman that are or Nosferatu that are like updates on older stuff from back in the day, it doesn't feel like they're just running back IP because of nostalgia purposes. Like they're not doing a Space Jam because kids watched it. They're picking things that people have all but forgotten about or don't know anything about, and they're giving their spin on it. And
Mhm.
if we're not getting those movies, we're getting movies like Heretic or like Companion that are going to be original stories that are just really tightly woven together. And they're not super major budget films for the most part. They're really tightly contained, but they're just like the quality level on them is amazing. We're getting peak horror right now, and I'm loving it.
I agree. I feel like 2025 is going to be filled with a lot of really great horror, which I'm excited about because I feel like since the pandemic, it's been slow moving, but now it's
Mm.
like starting to pick back up with horror. And I'm excited to see what's coming out this year. Like, can't wait.
Yeah,
Can't wait.
between the pandemic and then the writers strike, it was a lot
Right.
of
Of
things getting held
course.
up.
Of course. But now that everything is like back to how it is now, I'm like, more of this, please.
Because they're just like I swear every horror trailer, every time I go to see a horror movie, there's like three or four more movies in that one like trailer run. I think there was one
Mhm.
for the like a Valentine's Day horror movie or like Hard Eyes that seemed
Ooh, I got
interesting.
to my movies super late, so I only saw, like, I think 2 previews. I love a Valentine's Day themed horror.
Did you
I
see
love that.
My Bloody Valentine back in the
My
day?
Bloody
The
Valentine.
the miner that was killing people on Valentine's Day?
Of course I did. Yes, I
Yeah.
did. I think that's one of the only Valentine's Day related horror films.
that I can think of.
that
Yeah,
was, like,
it's.
more mainstream. But yes, I did.
I'm
I
starting to
think
see a.
that's
I'm
based on
starting
a
to see
true
a lot
story, or
more
am I
though.
lying?
My Bloody Val. I think it's based on a true story if I remember right.
I believe that's based on a true story too. There was, like, a Valentine's Day Massacre, I think that's what it was called. It's based off of that.
We're starting to see a lot more though of like those holiday based horror movies between that
I love holiday-based horror.
Thanksgiving's
I
Day
really do.
or was that the recent one that came
Oh,
out?
yeah,
Thanksgiving.
I
Yeah,
didn't see that. I didn't see that, but
it was fun. I'll put it like that. It wasn't terrible, but
okay.
it was
I like a fun horror movie, though. I'm not mad at a fun horror movie.
yeah. It's one of those where it's an in between to where it's not quite a comedy like Freaky, but it's not
Mhm.
quite super serious either. It's like that in between.
I like that, though. I don't mind
Almost
that.
almost like Scream, where it's like kind of meta a little bit, but it's not like
Yeah, I
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
'Cause
But yeah,
I love a fun horror movie. Yeah,
but
a horror movie doesn't have to be sad and depressing and horrible for me to land. It can be funny and
mm,
silly and, like, a little bit not that serious. I actually like that about a horror movie sometimes.
because I honestly, part of me prefers a little bit when horror movies are a little bit cheeky, where the comedy's there
Me
and they have a
too.
little self awareness.
Yeah, it feels right. Yeah. They have to be, like, a little bit raunchy, not too raunchy, because then it's weird.
Hmm.
A little bit raunchy and a little bit cheeky. That's what I like out of my horror movies. I think it's fun.
But before you get up out of here, do you have any other major points, things you want to hit on for the Wolfman? I know we talked about the death. We kind of ran through it because the movie's not crazy long, but there's just so much. Most of what's to talk about with that movie, in my opinion, is the subtext and the writing on
Mhm.
like family units and generational trauma. But do you have anything else you want to kind of speak on before we get up out of here?
I just feel like it did justice to the Universal Monster franchise. I was very happy with this new version of Wolfman and how they presented it. That's all I have to say about that. I 10 out of 10 for me. I loved it.
Yeah. For the people that are here, Swole Monster, thanks for commenting. I appreciate you, man. Hopefully you come back around. And to anybody else that has showed up to this live, to the 34 people that were here, to the 5 that are here in the moment, thank you guys so much for coming out and, just listening and being a part of this. We're going to be, I'm probably going to do a lot more horror stuff with Dani in general. It's something I tried to do going forward. I haven't done as much because I was having computer issues and I was scared of my computer restarting midstream, but it held up pretty good today, knock on wood. And if you want to see more of what I have to say on this particular movie, I have my review that I recorded last night after I saw it getting put together now. So I should hopefully have that out either tomorrow or Tuesday. I think is when it's going to come out. But yeah, I'm going to be covering a lot more horror on the channel. If you guys are new to the channel, again, I am Captain Diesel, and I cover a lot of nerdy stuff from movies to anime to cartoons to comics and all that good stuff. From video essays to I'm doing a lot more reactions now to some of the anime that are out right now. But yeah, and if you guys just are here for the horror stuff, I have some stuff up here, and I'm gonna be doing a lot more stuff with Dani, and I've done some cool stuff with my friend Kaori, which I have to get Dani and Kaori in a
Yeah.
video at some
Yeah,
point
yeah, yeah.
today. I'll get y'all
Mhm.
together at some point. But yeah, y'all let me know in
Looking
the
forward
comment
to it.
section. Y'all let me know in the comment section below if there's anything that you guys want me and Dani to discuss specifically, or just to get covered on the channel. I would love to do that in regards
Yeah.
to horror or anything else. And Dani, do you want to tell people where they can find you? I don't know. I know you haven't started a channel officially yet, but
I haven't started a channel. I think I will in the future. I don't really know though. Everything's up in the air.
mhm.
I don't really have anywhere you can find me that I do anything. I mostly just do this with you. So I guess if they're looking for content like this, come to you.
Yeah, fair enough. Again, this has been Captain Diesel of Captain Diesel's Dojo, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.